G'day, welcome to West Wallaby Street. I'm Edward, I am the lead modeler of Mighty Coconut and Hyper, Wallace and Gromit. Obsessive?
I'm Don Carson, Senior Art Director here at Mighty Coconut, working on Walkabout Mini Golf, and I am also a huge fan of Wallace and Gromit. And we're so happy to have you along to get an early tour of Wallace and Gromit's house. So let's go.
Everything you see before you is, I hate to say something, but something. We had the most fun trying to fill in every space with something from every era of Wallace and Gromit. So this is from the AR game. The van over there is from A Matter of Life and Death. It's their work van, and something that's really fun about Wallace and Gromit is that it wasn't us going, okay, well, here's Wallace and Gromit, and we're going to put a mini golf course in the world. Wallace is always putting together a new business. And so we were able to say, okay, well, Wallace is building this mini golf course. He's basing this on what he has to hand, but how would he approach this business? So, of course, he's decked out the van with his golf course decorations. You can see over at the front gate there is the putters and the balls that you would need to come in and play a mini golf course. So this level, more than anything else, has really been constructed as it would have been constructed by Wallace. We were a conduit for a British man.
Yeah, we also knew that Wallace and Gromit has a huge number of fans, and so everything we could squeeze in here we tried to, but it meant that we also had to become sort of unofficial experts in every stick of furniture and every room and every detail. So we've really gone out of our way to try to deliver upon people's expectations of what they would find in Wallace and Gromit's house.
One of the first things to really note is the architecture. There was a huge amount of work trying to make the house work, because obviously with any film set, but also with Wallace and Gromit, the geometry of the architecture doesn't make a huge amount of sense. It's whatever works. And so we had, I'm just going to say, a really, really fun time building the house in a way that we thought made the most sense. We had some really good work with Aardman on it. I think we got sketches from Nick Park at one point on the layout of the house, and we were able to say, yes, we like this bit, or no, we don't like this bit, and we were able to build in our mind how the house works, but also it's still very much our interpretation. It isn't necessarily the correct one, it's just the Walkabout one.
Something that's interesting we've discovered in a lot of our IPs, whether it was Meow Wolf or it was Cyan working on Myst or working with Nick Park, is that everybody at some point early on in their creative career fantasized doing a miniature golf course, and then we arrive with this opportunity to deliver upon that dream. And so it was no different with Aardman. They've always fantasized this idea of doing a Wallace and Gromit mini golf park, so it just fit in perfectly with what we had planned on doing for this course.
And of course, we got to have a lot of fun with how we did the characters. So you'll see them wandering around, and you'll notice that whatever frame rate the headset runs at, for your particular headset and build, Wallace and Gromit don't. They are animated in a stop motion style so that it really feels like you're in this world with them, that you're in a stop motion world. Fun fact about the kitchen is that it was the first room we sort of themed, that we put together. Early on, when there was the discussion of doing Wallace and Gromit, I went away for an afternoon and just went, all right, I'm doing a bit, and you can't stop me. And I put together a version of this kitchen just so we could show them and say, this is how we would do your style. And a lot of it has remained very much the same from that first afternoon, including, funnily enough, the concept of this hole, which makes now 2 holes in my career that I've managed to put into the game. But it was very much going, okay, we've got this kitchen, how are we going to make the style of Wallace and Gromit match our style? So you'll notice a sort of handles and plugs and taps. They're all bigger and chunkier than usual. The ratios don't make sense for people, but it makes sense for clay people with big chunky hands where everything's a bit rounder and a bit smoother, which is really funny to marry with our art style, which is low poly and very harsh and very sort of angular.
Yeah, we also knew that many of the inventions are celebrities unto themselves, so we needed to make sure that we took as many opportunities to highlight these inventions throughout the course.
So obviously sometimes we can't do everything in the stop motion animation style based on what makes sense to the scene, so we really did what worked for us and the world itself to make it fit. But everything that you see is how we imagined Wallace would imagine making a mini golf course. He goes, okay, well there's this sort of thing would, yes, okay, well I've got this to hand and I've got this to hand, and how can I put it together? And really approaching it with the understanding that Wallace is an incredibly competent engineer. He's smart, he's brilliant, he's talented, but he's always short of a few bob. You know, he's never really got the money. So everything you see is put together really, really well, but it's not like everything is put together out of, you know, really high quality materials, using what was to hand and building that sort of version of it, making sure that everything is recycled, everything is used properly, but nothing is poorly done. This is a fun one because this is a level where I didn't hide the balls. We actually let Ryan and Chase, who are our incredible tech artists, do the ball hiding, and they did a wonderful job. It's brilliant. They're really, really fun, I think, in this one, whereas I tend to make them a bit unusual and cruel. I think they lent into it more actually being an enjoyable experience, which is an interesting way to look at it, I think. This is hole 6, so
Quite a lot
only a
to go
third
see.
of the way. So this hole here was actually suggested by Nick Park. I believe one of the earlier ideas was having a scale model of the Top Fun house and finally doing the traditional windmill hole. I know it's taken us a long time to get to doing the windmill hole in a mini golf game, but I think everyone can agree that it was worth the wait because this is the best interpretation of the windmill in hole in a mini golf course.
Yeah, the Aardman Studio offices also has the model used for the film of this windmill in their lobby. At about this scale.
we really tried to make it so that it's a smaller level than a lot of our other ones in terms of physical dimensions of where you play. So we tried to make sure that at every moment stuff was obscured, but also a lot of stuff was visible. So wherever you are, you can see a bit more, and there's always a, oh, I really want to go have a look at that. But you're also still in a complete space.
We also wanted to just cram every surface with references to them and to the previous films, shorts, and feature-length films. So everywhere you go, there's some reference to something.
Obviously, Herculean amounts of cheese are necessary at every moment. Alright, now we head back into the house for, I believe, hole 9, where we got to sort of take the Jambalista from, I would say it's a close shave, and send it all a little bit mad, and let us have a fun new hole with a really new mechanic. The jam mechanic. The jam mechanic is refined, is sort of confined to one. Oh, wait, no, you're right. No, the next hole. Oh, I take back what I said. You're right, it does stay sticky.
Mm-hmm. How did you guess?
Something with this that I think is a little bit different from some of our other licensed courses is that because in-universe Wallace is putting it all together, we changed a lot of how we'd approach references, in that we have not only references to what's already here, and we have a lot of those, we have references to things that have never been in the films, but or have ever existed, but were invented for this course. So whenever Wallace and Gromit have a new business, they always have a lot of extra stuff from other companies and other businesses. So a bit of an early shout out would be our Icarus Putters posters in the hallway. Clearly not something that Wallace has invented, but something that you would find in a film when Wallace has gone fully obsessed into a new business. He would look at the other businesses and make use of whatever's around, which was really, really fun to come up with things that not necessarily Wallace and Gromit would have invented, but would have been invented and fit into the world that they're in.
Well, you have jam on your balls, so the next obvious hole would be to wash it. And down the hall we go.
There was a lot of work done early on to make sure that there was a walkable path. That was one of our longer tasks, was figuring out how on earth you navigate through this house that really doesn't present a linear path. And how does this make sense? And in the end, you do retread over areas more than in other levels, but always in a rewarding way that takes you to new places. And it also rewards sometimes going back and discovering new things, such as all this orange paint being the same paint that's used on the rocket. But they obviously have that big orange rocket, so what would they have lots and lots of leftover paint for painting a room? Well, rocket paint. Yes, we've also finally started damaging the carpets. Just in this one spot though, we're still safe. Another fun little detail to point out is that these are sketches Wallace has for new inventions for a golf course. Those were early sketches that were done when exploring different ideas for what gadgets may have been invented for this course. We ended up going less into new gadget territory and more reusing what was already here and already designed, trying to be efficient. But those sketches were early pieces I ended up doing because I wanted to imagine what new gadgets would be made and understand the Wallace and Gromit art style. And there are several other references to them in the course. They aren't pieces you putt around, but there are still there. There's a lot of history hidden in this course, not just from Wallace and Gromit, but from our development of the course itself.
And this will take your ball down to the basement workshop, so we have to go back down the stairs.
Same as there's always a fun bit of stained glass on the window. I believe this was designed by Don. You did a couple different stained glass options for me, and I just put in which one I liked the most. But just to say, yes, they're really into mini golf at this stage.
And it was important that we really delivered upon people's expectations of what it would be like to be visiting Wallace and Gromit's workshop. So a lot of research went into this space as well. Let's see, that's got to be, let's see,
15.
15.
The one
Yeah.
here. I believe this room more than any went through revisions and feedback. We really wanted to get it absolutely right. At one point in the layout, I think the room came earlier and you went up via a lift into the garden where hole 18 was in the garden. But we moved things around to what would allow for the most fun sense of discovery. When you play through the level, Wallace and Gromit themselves wander around, so you will see at times, say, Gromit here, working away, controlling everything, making sure everything runs properly. Fun thing with this desk is these sketches were early sketches of the layout of the house. I say early, this was more once we refined a bit of the layout and were planning where the holes went and how the flow would go. But these aren't just Wallace's sketches, these are our sketches. And of course, this sketch that I pointed out upstairs, one of Wallace's concepts of one of his creatures, you can see, apart from having some cheese and tea, he's working on sort of test models of this sort of pusher creature, and you can see bits of the creature having been worked on already. But he's not quite there yet. He's still working on this. He's going to make this level even better and more full.
And then hole 17 is up inside the rocket. We need to do some climbing. Well, this is definitely one of those environments that I think everybody has on their bucket list of places to visit. And we have a mechanism on hole 17 that once everybody's activated it, then we launch the rocket.
Finally, after all these years, we get to launch the rocket. Of course, a fun thing is that we always, and I say this about every single course, they have to functionally, physically make sense. Not just in the logical sense for us, but they physically have to fit. The inside of the rocket has to fit on the inside of the rocket. But I think it feels very natural, and I want one for my desk. Or do I want a full-size rocket to live in and put my desk inside?
Yes.